Good evening, everyone. It is Kariso Mpahlele, life coach on purpose and self-development. So yes, tonight I'll be speaking about the power in adaptation. There's so much power in adaptation. So we cannot change seasons, that's one thing for sure, but then we can change ourselves. Okay? So we cannot have control on the outside world, but then we can always devote to the inside world. So change, it's one element that is so inevitable, it's so constant. The only thing constant in life is change, so we cannot avoid it, we need to embrace it. So with the current situation that we are stuck in, I just felt the need to speak and touch on this. There is power in adaptation. So it's very important that we embrace the current reality and move away from the delusion and the fear of saying that things was way better before. Now things have changed, so we need to embrace the reality and not pay a lot of time on what it should have been done, on how it should have been done. So I for one will speak about my speaking gigs. I'll always do my speaking gigs in a physical form. I'll always go on different venues and speak. But then now it's not happening. So what else now? So what I do is that I embrace the current reality to say that, and in the first time, on the times of when things were normal at first, I used to speak, but then I used to reach a certain type of audience. But then it's only now that I can always reach a global space. I didn't have so much presence online before. It's only now that I'm having this presence online, I can reach out to a global or a large audience. So it's always the case that most of us will always be driven by just pointing the obvious, to say that things were much better back then. I used to do things differently back then, but then we cannot have any control on that. So what we have control on is that what are we doing about it? What is our response to the changes? So my response to the change was that I used to go to different auditoriums and different venues to speak, but then that it's not happening. I used to speak to a different kind of audience, and I'll reach that kind of audience rather. But then the beauty in this reality is to say that it's only now that I managed to increase my network. It's only now that I managed to reach a global space. So it's always a case that in most cases the change takes place, we shouldn't be driven by how things were, how things used to be, but then embrace the current reality, because we cannot have any control. We absolutely have no control on what's happening, but then what we have control is how do we respond to it. When your inner world changes, then the things around you change. So it's always the case that whenever we are faced with a problem, you shouldn't devote all the time and complaining of how things were, but then take time to be adaptive and embrace the current reality. How is it serving me? What are the benefits? Okay, I was living in this kind of norms, but then what is it different from the other times, and how is it beneficial for me in this time? So yes, I used to speak a lot and I used to connect with the audience more, but then now it's only now that I increased my network. It's only now that I can reach people in different countries with my message that I bring to society. So I embrace that, to say that okay, things were this way, but then I cannot have any control. And once things are normal in this way, it's very hard and it's very inevitable to go back. So we need to embrace that technology is inevitable, evolution is indeed inevitable. So let's take time to embrace how things are, the current reality, and let's not devote the energy of how things were, because we have no control on that. So what worries me a lot is that in times of this, there's so much chaos going on. People just be all over the place, doing this and doing that. But then with this all happening, it's not a case that we need to change our mission statement. We need to change what we do. So whatever that you were doing, do it, but in a different way. Whatever that you were so good at, whatever purpose or mission that you always served, just find a way to serve it in a different way. I used to speak about purpose and coaching and self-development. I'm still doing it, but in a different way, because I have seen for one that people just opening up these new businesses, and I take nothing from there. It's a good thing. But then, if you spot an opportunity, let's say in the environment that you live in, you see an opportunity where you can just open up a business for cooking and serving people with food. No, I take no critic on that, and I say I embrace it. But then, if that's not your niche, if that's not your purpose, if that's not aligned with what you love, then you can always find someone who loves cooking and still prosper in that. So, yes, you found a business opportunity in your area. Yes, it's a good thing. People might need this kind of services and you want to thrive financially in these times. Yes, if you want to open up a cooking spot, you can still do it, but then find someone who gains a lot of inspiration from cooking. There's no need for us to multitask this and this and this. As you know that cooking is not your thing and you have spot a great opportunity, it's always a case that it's okay to say that, I know you're into cooking and I know that you're so great at this. Let's just pursue this. You can partner with someone who's good in cooking. The moment he or she gets inspiration from cooking, he spends or she spends all his time, doing the cooking. He spends all of his time doing research on how can I nourish it, better it. But then as you for one, you see people are doing this and you just want to tap into that space and you live the core mission of who you are, which is serving your purpose. So it's always a case that as much as people will be doing this thing differently, but then you need to be intact with who you are. So I'm still coaching, I'm still bringing the same message. As much as online presence has more impact when people are in the entertainment space, but I wouldn't go to that route because it's not who I am. I'm still on the coaching. My message is still the same. I'm still doing it, but in a different way. So you shouldn't live in a case that you see chaos happening all around and you want to change your mission or your purpose. No, you need to be intact. As much as you have seen a business opportunity on this, but then find someone who's so good at what you want to do, and he or she will become spontaneously resilient. He or she will be so great at it because he or she spends most of his time doing it. So it's always a case that we need to find those people and we need to delegate. In terms of us complaining, back then when I used to do grade 10, they will speak about what you call the pestle factors. These are all the factors that we have no control on: politics, environment, social society as a whole, technological advancement, legislation. We have no control over these things. Business studies will just give us this concept to say the personal factors we cannot devote on something like this because we have no control. Now, people devote all the time on the weather. People will just rely their happiness or fulfillment on weather, politics, environment. But when you have no control on those things, we have no control on what's happening around the world. We have no control on politics, environment, social impacts, society as a whole, technology, legislation. We have no control over all those things. But then what we have control on, it's the inner world. So you need to embrace the fact that we cannot be devoting all the time, complaining about politics, weather. But then let's embrace the current situation. Okay, what is it serving me? How can I just improve myself on this? How can I just seize opportunities on this? And I'll also give you a typical example on one live video that I made on childhood deprivation, to say that if you had problems in your life, you need to make sure that you retrospect on those problems in life, that I once had a problem in this. Now, how can I just use that to serve me in my current reality? So, hello, Chilizi. So I always had this problem where I would just go to the workspace and get frustrated in doing what I don't love just to pay bills. So that was just one problem that I always had. But then I didn't seek sympathy from people to say that this is one problem that I had. This worried me and bothered me. But then I used that problem to serve a purpose, to say that I want to awaken gifts of others, because I've seen that when you're in a space that you don't belong, you always frustrate, you always, worry about having the task, you always compromise your mental health. So that's one problem that I had, and I used it to serve me. So even in these times of the pandemic, what are the problems that we have encountered, and how can we just perceive opportunities in these times? But then, as I said, we need not to lose our mission. If you spot an opportunity on cooking, and I see people most doing that, but then find someone who gets inspiration in cooking, and yes, prosper in that space. But then there's no need for you to do cooking, doing this. Be in act with your mission, because I'm still bringing the same message, but then now I'm reaching a global audience. I'm now improving my network because I'm all over the phone. Back then I used to not be on the phone because I used to speak a lot at different auditoriums, but then I didn't reach a large audience. So I'm embracing the current reality, and yes, we shouldn't be worrying about the politics. We don't have any control in the environment, legislation, laws, climate, the virus. We don't have any control over that. Let's just do what we do. Let the ones who have control on it do that. Then yes, we'll just embrace the current reality, because we cannot go back to the old normal. It can never be a case. I also spoke about one concept where my cousin made this example to say that in his workspace, people just say that I don't want to adapt to the new way of doing things. I love doing things this way. Colleagues, when maybe a supervisor will just propose something to say that let us just do things differently, and you would say that no, I always love the old way of doing things, but they're not knowing that what are the benefits that you can encounter or benefit from this new change. So what he does is that he always be open-minded to how things are. The moment you start on doing things the same way, then nature will force you to adapt. So if you want to restrict change, then nature will force you to adapt. Then the moment you want to adapt without any notice or without any preparation, it's going to be a case that you might be in trouble. So always be open-minded, always be eager to learn about new things and embrace reality and see the benefits and the opportunities, because in every problem there will be opportunities. And yes, I believe that this pandemic was this one moment where it has unleashed creativity, because we are forced to do things different way, and it has been making us so great to say that how can we even be so creative on doing things differently. Now we need to embrace that, and we need to embrace how things are, and we need to live up with the fact that things are going to be this way. And now how can we adapt, because those who cannot adapt will be in trouble, because change, if you don't want to be friendly to it, it won't be friendly to you. Say yes, there's power in adaptation, and yes, always adapt. But then yes, stay in act with your true mission. Do what you love, but in a different way. Awesome night. Thank you guys.